and I will speak for just a few moments on something that I think is the most important issue facing our country today. And I can't think of a better time than the first day we're in session here in the Senate in this new Congress, and that is the federal deficit. I'm proud to say that later this week, Claire McCaskill from Missouri will be joining me, along with Richard Burr, John McCain, Senator Alexander, and Senator Isaacson, in something called the CAP Act. And what it does is take us over a 10-year period from where we are in spending at the federal government level as a percentage of our country's economy, the gross domestic product, taking us from where we are today at 24% down to the 40-year average, which we've had in this country, as I mentioned, for 40 years, of 20.6%. This is something that puts in place a construct or a straitjacket on Congress that really allows us over time to take a methodical, thoughtful approach to spending at the federal level, but to actually have to do it. In this bill, which we also offered as an amendment during the lame duck session, it's now a standalone bill. Again, we'll be offering it a little bit later this week. We hope to have additional co-sponsors from both sides of the aisle. But what it would do is take us from where we are today down to that average, and if Congress did not act responsibly, then OMB would have the ability through sequestration to actually take money out of both mandatory and non-mandatory accounts to ensure that we, again, have that discipline to take us where we need to be. I have talked about this bill now. I've traveled throughout Tennessee. I've made about 46 presentations of how we in Congress could act more responsibly. And it's amazing that people on both sides of the aisle have looked at this and said, you know, this makes a lot of sense. And so it's my hope as we look at trying to rein in federal spending that this bill, I believe this bill is the vehicle. There may be other ideas, but I hope that this is something that we, in fact, will act upon during this spring. I know the President most recently has talked a great deal about this issue of fiscal responsibility. I thank him for that. I'm hoping that tonight, when he delivers his speech, he talks about the fact that we here in Washington have got to have the same kind of discipline that all of our folks back home have to live by. And again, this is something we've been working on for a long, long time. We tried to work on it in a way that in no way points fingers. I think people understand that people on both sides of the aisle are responsible for our country ending up where it is fiscally. And so we've tried to draft something that brings people together, that for the first time since I've been here 4 years, and I've just been amazed at the lack of discipline that exists in Congress, that we have no mechanism, no straitjacket, if you will, that forces us to act responsibly. And so through a long period of time, we've worked to put together a bill. By the way, it's under 10 pages. I think it's 8 or 9 pages long that actually does that. It has a smoothing mechanism in it so that when there are gyrations in our economy, we know the federal government can't react quite as quickly as a state or city can. That smoothing is averaged out so that we know what the target is in the ensuing year. But it really has tight constraints. It requires a 67-vote majority, or 2/3 of the Senate and 2/3 of the House to override. So it's a very, very strong bill. Again, I think people on both sides of the aisle are beginning to embrace this type of thinking. It's my hope, again, that as the President tonight hopefully talks responsibly about our fiscal state here in the United States, that this type of mechanism, if you will, gains momentum. It's also my hope that we will vote and pass something like this along with actual budget cuts prior to the debt ceiling vote. I think all of us know that it would be very irresponsible not to act responsibly prior to this debt ceiling vote, which will take place sometime in April, May, possibly June. So, Madam President, I thank you for the time to talk a little bit about this. Again, on the first day of us coming back together, I can't imagine anything more important for all of us to focus on than to get our fiscal house in order. I know the whole world is watching us. I know people have said that we here in Washington don't have the courage to deal with this. I know the presiding officer has had to deal with this as the governor of a state. I've certainly had to deal with this as the mayor of a city and a businessman and commissioner of finance for my state. We all know that things are awry here. I think we have a wonderful opportunity in a bipartisan way to do something that really puts our country back on strong footing. With that, Madam President, I thank you for the time and I yield the floor.